there's been so many points in my business life with my wife, where we've got to our lowest, just so frustrated with everything. So many times we could have easily just thrown in the towel, but we just know, just by pushing through in those moments, it's not only helping you to grow, you're becoming stronger, you're evolving as a person, but you're getting towards your greatest breakthroughs.
Unlocking the next chapter. I'm Ollie Hall-Green, and I'm the founder and host of Shapes of Resilience. In this podcast, we explore the raw, unfiltered stories of those who refused to give up, turning adversity into strength, setbacks into lessons, and pain into purpose. Through these inspiring stories, we can learn and find resilience in our own lives every single day, because true growth isn't found in comfort. This podcast discusses sensitive topics including trauma, suicide, loss, mental health, and illnesses. Some conversations may be distressing, so please take care whilst listening. Welcome to Shapes of Resilience, done very, very differently. So, today's episode, I'm joined by Ollie Ollerton, and I'm absolutely buzzing. This has been a connection that has meant a lot to me. It started right back at the start of my journey in April last year, where I finally took the courage to post a video online about some of the struggles I was having and some of the lessons I'd learnt with the sea swimming. And from that reel, Ollie was kind enough to follow me, sent me a message of support, which really helped me to overcome that initial fear I had, because I thought, well, if Ollie resonates with it, then imagine who else might resonate with it. So from there, it really was a journey for me, and it meant a hell of a lot to me, and it's been there all the way through the journey. Ollie's someone that I look up to, I admire. I followed him from his SAS, Who Dares Wins, when he was on TV, putting people through their paces with his military background, but then also on his more recent journey. Now I've definitely been inspired and impacted by all of his work that he does in these environments. We're at the Wellness Way Festival. It's day 2. I've immersed myself fully into everything that's going on, done some breath work today, done some visualization meditations with Ollie, which we'll go into, but first and foremost, let's just get into it. And welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. I just want to say as well, this has been a long time coming. It's happened just at the right moment, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Look at this. Perfect. And also the fact that, I think I've told you this before, Ollie, that, I get a lot of requests for people to do stuff, and I don't judge it too much, but when it feels right, then I respond. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, a lot of people, I just can't get back to everyone, but a lot of people, they're not on the same trajectory or the same parallel. Anyway, but as soon as I saw your stuff, and it just felt right. So it was a natural thing for me to just do the follow and support you. And it's been amazing watching your journey as well. And, I can see exactly where you're going, what your mission is, and there's a lot of people out there trying to do the whole podcast thing, trying to, create superiority, celebrity status, and I can see that's not you, because you've got a deeper meaning and purpose than that.
It means a lot to me, mate.
And that's why it connected with me.
Oh, thank you, mate. And I think you're so right. And I think there's been so many moments with conversations I've had with guests I've already had on the podcast where I could have easily twisted and used some of their content in a controversial way, but it's just not me. So it's a fine balance, but I just follow this at all times.
Yeah, that's so important. And we talked about this morning in the meditation. It's like, while we were on that, and it's so important that we learn to lead with this, the heart. Whereas we're always thinking we've got to fix the mind, it's the mind, blah, 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 this, that and the other, but it has to start in the heart. This is where it all starts. And that to me is the real antenna from the outside world. This to me is more mechanical. This is the system. But I think this, and I could be wrong, people have different opinions, but I believe this is where it starts. If it's not right in the heart, I think the heart is the filter system. If it's not right in the heart, then it's never gonna affect correctly. Saying that, have you ever heard about the heart thing? Have you heard about the girl in the States?
No.
It's a really interesting thing. There's a guy called Greg Braden who is an amazing guy. You should look at some of his stuff. He's got some incredible stuff. Always searching for the origin of humanity. And there was a situation in America. I don't know the town. And there was a young girl that had a heart transplant.
Yep.
And shortly after the heart transplant, she started seeing images, shocking, horrible. This picture, this face. She kept seeing this face in front of her in her nightmares. Anyway, it got so bad that they ended up calling in people, a psychologist, everything else, and they did a bit of due diligence on who actually gave the heart, where they got the heart from. As it turned out, the girl had been given a heart from another girl her age, similar age, that had just been killed in her local town. So anyway, next thing, they get in a sketch artist, criminal sketch artist, who then drew an image of what the girl was seeing every night. As it turned out, the picture that she described and they drew ended up being a guy in the local town, and when confronted and given the statement that the girl was hearing repetitively, which was the last words that the girl had heard that was being killed, he confessed to killing the girl.
No way.
Yeah. So basically, to summarise that, because it can be a bit confusing, the girl that took the heart from the girl that was killed was seeing the girl's murderer in her dreams.
That's crazy.
And then through that, and through drawing the picture, they managed to find the guy who was in a local town, and he confessed to killing the girl, who was now serving time. And that just means, the whole basis of that means there's more to the heart than just
It's a powerful
pump.
thing. Yeah.
The heart is not a pump. The heart is an electric circuit, a vortex, and it's pulsing. It's not pumping, it's not like a beat. There's an electric pulse going through that. And it's so important that we appreciate the heart is the receiver. And there's been other stories as well, about people changing, someone, I think there was another story about someone just there eating, all of a sudden this woman who, was a middle-class type woman, liked to China cups and a tea, was all of a sudden wanting a stubby, a beer. And it found out it was the guy that she took the heart from, and it was what he liked. So there's more to this whole system, and regardless of the heart, whatever, there's more to this than we're led to believe. This whole meat suit that some people think that they're just, walking around, moving around, there's more to this than we've been fed to believe.
Yeah, and it's very interesting once you get a taste for wanting to know more. I've come here as a student. I just want to absorb as much as I possibly can in the short space that I'm here. Try and retain as much as I can to go back with that new information and use that for the greater good, use that to influence people around me, use that to fall back on with my content and stuff like that. And do you feel like we can ever stop learning?
No, I don't. And like you just said there, come here as a student. I think I will always be a student.
Yeah.
I will always be a student. And I really
likewise.
believe that if you sit there in a space where you believe that you know everything and you've got all the answers, and I don't need to learn anymore, I think that's a dangerous place to be, and it's not, it's unrealistic. Also the fact, regardless of what we talk about on this podcast, and I am of open mind, right? If someone wants to tell me a certain narrative, I am open enough to accept someone's opinion.
Yeah.
Now, if you strongly believe something, you will find anything to support that narrative. Like if I believe the Earth's flat, I can go onto YouTube and I'll find loads of supporting evidence. If I want to contradict that and find out the Earth is round, I can find loads of evidence to support that. And it's okay having these external factors to influence what we think and how we feel. No, sorry, to what we think, but it's how we feel that we should be responding to. What makes sense to you? And it's important that we open up to actually accept someone else's opinion.
Yeah.
Because that's their belief, and if they have that belief, that's why we supposed to live in a democratic society where people have their own opinions.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And really that helps humanity to evolve as well. Humanity is never going to evolve if we just stick in a linear sort of line and don't ever question anything.
It's also okay to agree on most things, but don't be afraid, especially if you look up to someone and you're having a conversation, it's going really well and you're aligning, but then all of a sudden something comes up and you're like, don't agree with that. Like how easy do you think it is for people just to go along with it?
Well,
just to impress someone else, and
absolutely.
not want to rock the boat, or
if
feel
people
like you're going to offend someone.
Yeah, no, exactly. If people avoid confrontation. The majority, some people don't. Some people love confrontation, and sometimes I'll avoid confrontation.
Yeah.
If I just don't think the argument's worth it, I'll allow them to have their opinion. Just agree with it. I agree with the fact that you believe in your opinion, but it doesn't mean I agree with it.
More often than not, that's the right approach.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm going to leave you to, I'm not going to challenge everything someone says. I mean, a lot of the stuff I think about, a lot of people won't agree with, and that's fine. I'm happy with that.
So let's start with something you said in your meditation this morning, and you said that you're here supporting this festival out of the goodness of your heart. There's no financial reward, so fair play, like massive respect. So what is it about this festival that brings you here?
Yeah, I mean,
journey?
for me, it's actually cost me to come here. It's my
Yeah.
own money. It's cost me to come here. I live in Dubai now, and I've come here purposely because I know Philly J. I know her journey. It's been amazing. I know how much she's put on the line. But the bottom line is for me that this is connection to people, and it's so important. You know, when there's a gathering, to actually understand that everyone here is here because they want to improve not only humanity, you know, around their environment, humanity, all the people around. They want to improve themselves. They're living in this growth mindset, and anyone that's prepared to invest in themselves interests me, or I want to be around those type of people.
Yeah.
People that want to grow, they want to learn, and not just remain static and just be a subject to the program of life. And just, you know, we're here to have an experience, and you know, I do sympathise with the majority of humanity is just so static in their beliefs and just following the program of everyday life, thinking that they're going to be working towards this one day in the future, this utopia where they're going to be happy. So I'm going to sacrifice all the happiness of my life because one day in the future when I can retire, I'm going to have this utopia where I can sit on a beach and drink pina coladas and do nothing. So your goal in life is to be a giant baby. I mean, that's no goal, is it?
No.
And that, to me, is absolute hell. You know, the bottom line for me is the fact that we should be living a utopia every day, and that's sometimes unrealistic because life has its ups and downs and everything else. But I do believe the majority of the time, I think this is the true barometer of mental health. Is we've got 7 days in a week, right? The majority of those days, I should be feeling good, and when I'm not, that's when I need to do something about it. It's not about having a checklist to say, have I got PTSD? Why do I deserve PTSD? I haven't been in the military, I haven't been in the police, I haven't been in this, so I don't... It's not about that. Do you feel good? Do you feel a zest for life? Do you feel enthusiastic about every day, most days? And when you don't, when the balance is the other way, it's just an indication to start doing some work.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is we should be on this constant evolution. We are a constant improvement model to always be looking for something bigger. And I do believe when we've not got that, that's when the body, the soul, whatever you want to call it, starts saying to you, hey, look, I need to move, I need to do something different, I'm not feeling good. And when that sort of, I'm not feeling good, I don't feel great, that doesn't mean you become more insular. That means you become, right, I need to break the pattern. I need to break something, and that could be just going into wild, getting around some different people, getting around people, because we end up, you know, when we're in a dark space, sometimes you don't want to share that. You become very insular, and the walls grow on the inside. Before you know it, you're not doing anything different. You're stuck in the same old pattern, and you're not connecting with anyone, even your best mates.
So true, and I feel like sometimes there was something Philly said yesterday, and it was that our bodies have brought us here, and I feel like a lot of the time when I feel down or I'm going through a little bit of adversity, not feeling great, that I'll quite often be on my way somewhere, like for a sea swim or for a run or to a festival on my own with a tent, and I don't know how I'm doing it, but it's because my heart's leading my body, and then from that I'm putting myself in these situations that the greater good, this inner feeling knows is going to benefit me long term. But
Absolutely.
I think until you've dabbled in it, I think there's a lot of people that are too scared to try something new. And I think having an open mind to just try anything, because when I arrived yesterday, I didn't necessarily feel like I fitted the mould. I felt a little bit like out my comfort zone on my own. But quite quickly, that just went. So I thought, well, the whole purpose of being here is to get involved and just enjoy it for what it is.
But that's just your ego, isn't it? You know what I mean? Your ego, and you've got to start... Once we start to understand these things, we understand our ego, and at the end of the day, you know, the ego wants to be loved, it wants to be liked, it wants to defend. But, you know, we've just got to appreciate why it's there. You can't just say, I'm going to switch my ego off. Everyone's got an ego. But when we start to understand and learn these emotions, we no longer are the victim of the emotions. You know what I mean? We start to be the dictator of how we feel. And so it's the same with fear, it's the same with your ego, it's the same with... anger, same with everything. You know, they're there for a reason, but you have to be the gatekeeper of how much of that you allow to control you. And like you coming here, I mean, you've got more justification to be here than a lot of people, but your internal system is going, this is out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And probably that is because the environment you come from.
Yeah.
A lot of the time you're judging yourself on the perception of the people that are around you in your usual space of work, thinking, what would they think?
100%.
Same with me. I was from the Special Forces. I shouldn't be here doing meditations.
It's so cool.
You know what I mean? And this is what I love about it, though. It's
Yeah.
like, because people like me and you, people don't expect to see, and we are the people that can have a real influence on people.
Bridge the gap.
Yeah, it's like for instance, a lot of ex-military people that are suffering, they don't expect to see me here talking meditation. They don't expect to see me talking about mental wealth, and really start to look at positivity. I mean, I can always remember when I first got the TV show, right? And it was quite funny. I was like, I've always been, for a long time, the whole positive mindset and everything and all that, it came naturally over a period of time. And then it got really intense, and we can probably break into that, but it was the reason I got on the TV show. So when I first started getting a presence on Instagram, I started putting on these positive messages. And the lads were like, where'd you get all those shit messages from? Are you getting someone to make that? I'm like, no, I make. He says, stop doing it. And it's like, this is what you're dealing with. And it's like, some people are so cut off. And I think the word, which from your background, my background, and also from a male perspective, and even humanity in general, the word surrender is a tough one. And that takes, like, you coming here and just going, you getting in the car and feeling that takes surrender. Because the opposite to that is you start to think. And you start to go, well, this and that, and there's science around the 5-second rule. Any longer than 5 seconds on the decision, your brain will talk you out of it if you haven't done it before. So the longer you leave that to linger, before you know it, you've talked yourself out of it. Yeah. And that can be a split decision, where you go, no, I'm not going to that festival, and then you've come here and you are going to walk away, as you already said it to me, Ollie. You're going to walk away from here going, oh my God, so many things have happened, and this will be like a ripple effect. You know what I mean? It's like the last event we were at, the shift, you ended up meeting loads of people came on the podcast. It was a ripple effect.
And it's a knock-on.
Yeah.
So from that initial connection, and then I came to your event, and you were kind enough to give me the ticket.
You won it.
I was buzzing, absolutely buzzing. But I hope that I've done enough with because I feel the connection there. And I thought, it'd be so nice, because I couldn't afford to go. So then when the universe presented that opportunity, I thought, this is it, and it was just a really cool day.
Sat here.
Yeah. So when you said, are you coming to the Wellness Festival again, I was like, I really want to go. I couldn't afford it. So then I sent you the voice note day before, on Thursday, saying that I'd been given a bonus payment at work, which covered the ticket, and you sent a voice note back saying that's the universe with divine intervention.
Yeah.
And it's all these things. It's I wouldn't be in the position I'm in with my podcast, I don't believe, if it wasn't for the connections I've made, including yourself, including Mitchell, that was kind enough to come on right at the start as well. And from that, Jimmy saw it, he's come on the podcast.
Yeah.
From that, Maria has seen it, and she's coming to the UK to settle in one of her many girls, and they're going to come on the podcast as well.
Fantastic.
Whilst they're in the UK. So
amazing.
It's like, wow.
One
These are
connection.
the connections.
Yeah, one action. It's created all those ripples, and then those ripples will then create further ripples. You know what I mean? But so many people will sit there and not take the action and think, you know what, I'm just going to keep on doing what I did yesterday because that's what and this is the internal, this is not, they're not even thinking this, but the brain is going, just do what we did yesterday because it's kept me alive until today, and and it's familiar and it's safe. So it just wants to keep repeating that pattern of behaviour. I feel, honestly, when I learned this stuff, I was like, oh my, it was like the heavens opened up. It was like an epiphany for me. Understanding that we can change the destiny of our lives. We're not set in stone. We're not a victim of our trauma. We're not a victim of our environment. We're not a victim of a medical diagnosis. We can change, do exactly as we want to do. And knowing that we had the ability to orchestrate our destiny, that changed everything. Because we're fed these messages, ex-wives love them, like a leopard never changes his spots, which I've heard a million times. You know what I mean? What a load of bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like all these things you can change. And it's knowing that you've got that neuroplasticity, you can adapt, you can change, and you and me, we're products of the product.
We've seen it because we spent many years in that previous version doing those things.
Yeah.
And I remember it so well. And when you spoke earlier, it took me back because the same year, 2014, we were both in our darkest moments
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
How crazy is that? You were down in Cornwall, I was in Devon,
Yeah.
I was off work sick with stress,
Yeah.
anxiety, riddled with inflammation, and I didn't deal with that at all in any way.
Yeah.
And that had a knock-on effect for years and years and years, and I feel really bad for the way that I dealt with it because it had an impact on everyone around me, and I look back on that and I'm not proud of that, but it helped me to know that in the other occasions since where I've had dips, that there's no way I'll go back to that person. So yeah, take us back to 2014.
Yeah, for me it was. I mean, it was a long journey of battling before that, a long time. And I mean, for me, I don't blame the military for. We're good. For me, I don't blame the military or any one thing of, you know, for the issues I was facing. But I dragged in a lot of trauma into my military career from a child. Stuff I'd not dealt with, stuff I hadn't unpicked, and then that, you know, over years and years, and then it was the alcohol abuse and everything else. So by the time I got to 2014, there was such a path of destruction around me. I was in my early 40s, and I was just like lost. I was nowhere, and I didn't know who Ollie Ollerton was without being drunk. I seriously didn't. That was my identity, you know, being the party boy, being, you know, always going out, always doing crazy stuff, always getting into trouble and thinking it was like, oh yeah, this is so cool, you know. And it got to the point where I started realising it wasn't cool.
No.
And it was like, you know, people stopped laughing around me, you know, and including myself, because it wasn't fun anymore.
Did you think that was impressing others?
Yeah, I was pleasing the audience.
And you wake up with a hangover thinking, I'm glad that happened because I can ring the lads now. Oh, do you remember we did that?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, it's funny.
Yeah, yeah, and then you've got, like, you know, you're missing your wallet, your phone's gone, you've abused someone, you've done this, you've all kinds of shit, and then you won't believe what I did, thinking it's like some kind of kudos.
Yeah.
And everyone laughs, but it's sure, you know, you're not offering yourself any quality of experience, any quality of life. There's nothing to be proud of. And it's just pretty pathetic, really. And I actually started to realise that in this moment. It was like I realised drinking was just something that was not helping me at all. You know, I don't blame drink. I always say this, that I didn't have a drinking problem. I had a problem that was causing me to drink. But if you can't get past the alcohol to deal with it, you're always going to suffer. And that's why, you know, I've looked to help people in the past, and I always ask that question, are you still drinking? And if they're drinking, I'm like, well, until you deal with that, because if they are drinking, it's usually a problem. It's not just the odd pint. It's they're drinking to forget. They're drinking to numb. And I say, look, that is the first thing you need to deal with. If they're not prepared to step in and deal with that, then, you know, I can't really help. Because I know from my own journey, it's such a it's a smoke screen.
Yeah.
So, you know, I realised that was an issue for me. And my brain, though, was like, that's why it turned into such a battle, because I just thought, I can only manage this. Never in my wildest dreams would I think I can stop drinking, because it was such a massive part of my life. So, you know, I came back 2014 and I was like, I need to change who I am. I realised we could change. You know, I'd had some experiences, you know, in a short space of time. I won't say that I was so close to suicide. I just started to think far too often it'd be easier if I wasn't here. I didn't attempt suicide or anything like that, but I know how the world works. The more things if you focus on something, you feed it. And the more I was saying it far too often.
Yeah.
And
you become scared of, like, yourself around if something else was to come along now, like, could that be the thing that pushes me further to have more of those thoughts?
What, back then?
Yeah.
Yes. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Scary.
Yeah. But it was all, you know, at the end of the day, you know, a lot of it was the things, you know, I hated where I was. I hated my environment. I was fooling myself that it was okay because I was just drinking all the time, and I wasn't allowing myself the clarity of thought to be able to just sit in my own silence, which is something we rarely do anyway. But I just understood that the more that happened and the more regret and everything else I had, at some point it could have easily gone that way. You know what I mean? It would have taken something that would have just gone, you know what, I've been thinking about it enough, it's starting to make sense to me. Because that, for me, as well, when it comes to suicide, and some people don't like it when I say this, it's the path of least resistance. You know what I mean? Because the path that way seems a lot clearer than dealing with it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a short-term thing where I can say, well, I can just take myself out of the game, stop being a burden. That is the path of least resistance.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different emotions that can lead to those thoughts, whether it's genuine sadness where there's no hope,
Yeah.
or whether on the flip side of that you feel so strongly against something, or anger that you almost want to, the thoughts can be, I'm going to go and do that to prove to them like this is how bad it is, what's happened.
Yeah.
So it can have lots of different
Exactly, yeah.
reasons behind it.
But some massive implications, like the fact you're not here anymore. And, you know, at the end of the day, I don't care how bad your situation is. One thing I've always learned that doesn't matter, and I learned that from an early age, doesn't matter how bad the situation is, there's always a way out.
Well, it can only
It's
ever
always
get
a different
better.
option. Yes, 100%.
That's the best thing about being at rock bottom.
Yeah.
You
But-
know it can only ever get better.
But this is what I'll say, right? And I'm living proof of this as well. At your lowest ebb is the portal to your greatest self.
Yeah.
At the lowest ebb is, not all the time, but at the lowest ebb, as long as you know where to look, the lowest ebb is the portal to your greatest self.
Yeah.
You know, and that was definitely the case for me. And it's almost like, even now, recently I said to Laura, my wife, and it's like, you know, when things aren't going that well, and, you know, it's you know, sometimes you just need to let the car crash. You know what I mean? Because all the mechanical issues and everything, sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes that car has to have a total wipeout, a total crash before you can get in and properly fix it.
I agree, and I keep going through these cycles of doing really well and then pushing hard, thinking I'm on top of this again, but all I'm doing is I'm creeping back into old habits, but just in a new way.
Yeah.
Because I might not be working as much on my day job, but I'm pushing too hard on the podcast, or I'm training too much, or I'm running for a marathon, and there's something that I'm pushing too hard on, and then all of a sudden cup fill, nothing
Yeah.
left, and then
A pressure cooker.
and then I'm burnout again. But I know now, oh no, I've pushed too hard. Right, for this week, I know, follow the patterns, reduce the training, reduce the workload,
Yeah.
focus more on my diet, get more sleep, bit of reading. I know what to do. So even though it might not be an instant back to baseline, I know that by the end of the week I'm probably going to be there. And now more often than not, that pattern is happening. So it's a control measure.
I think we have to really understand that sometimes, you know, we're trained to believe, especially from the military, especially from the police, is like the harder we push, the better it is. And it's sometimes, that's not the way, because you're not in flow. You know, and flow for me is like something where everything feels natural. It feels right. And a lot of the time we're like, oh, we've got to push. It's even like, you imagine a workout, I've got to get in there and smash myself every day. And I used to be that mentality. You know, but it's not. It's your mind and body, and it's not the case. You don't have to push harder to achieve more.
No.
You know what I mean? You just have to find your flow. And this is something that it's been stolen from us, right? You know, when we were, I call it the programming centre, but when we all went to school, you know, I mean, you imagine the schooling system that we've been brought up in, you know, in those programmable years of our early ages. We went from subject to subject to subject to subject, never actually getting into the flow of any one subject. Have a little break, and then we do exactly the same the next day. Do that for 5 days, and then go home, have to do a load of homework we don't even like. And it was training us to be multitaskers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's truth. Like they built the whole schooling system to create factory workers.
How many children do you think in year 7, if they only did English all day, every day, just reading, would get to the same level that they did in year 11 in that first year?
Exactly, 100%. There was an actual study by a guy called George Lands. I don't know if you know about this one.
No.
George Lands was, they say he was commissioned by NASA, but whether that's true or not, but he was commissioned by NASA to find what it took to establish what creates a genius. Okay, so we went to these, first of all, this study was on 5-year-olds that hadn't even started going to school properly. And I think these 5-year-olds, and their ability to define what a genius is their ability to solve a problem creatively. So that's what defines a genius, right? So they went in and they did this study, and these kids were all doing this study, and it was something like the high 90s of each one of them has the ability to be a genius. They probably wanted to establish, NASA wanted to establish how to define a genius so they could recruit them.
Yeah.
But every one of these kids was pretty much had the
Creatively.
fundamentals for a genius. Then they went back to them 5 years later. So the kids are now 10. That went down to something like, I think it was something like 30%. Went down to 30%. Then they went back another 5 years later. It went down to next to nothing.
All right.
So they then abandoned the study, but George Lands carried this study on, and then he went to the adults. The adults proved in these creative tests that they only had 2% ability. 2%. And then he stated that 2%, that dumbed down of who they truly were, was due to schooling. So essentially each and every one of us has the ability or genius capabilities, mentally, creatively, and then over a period of time through the schooling system that's dumbed down. And that was proved.
If you're looking for a space where you can connect with like-minded people, come together for support and learn from each other, then my free Shapes of Resilience Facebook community is the place for you. It's built on the belief that all ships rise in a high tide. Inside, you'll find a completely free 4-day course designed to help you explore goal setting, build intrinsic motivation and discipline, and dive into physical activity, nutrition, sleep, connection, stress management, and balance. If this sounds like the community you've been looking for, then head into the link in the show notes and join us today. So we've had a little break there because I've checked, and as per usual, the technical issues have meant that we cut out a little bit of the conversation towards the end, but not too much. So let's just jump straight back into it. So we were talking about your military career, which I think that was the bit that deleted.
The thing with the military for me, I look at that situation now with the military and I was like, I'd love to go back and be in there now. With the mindset I've got now, I'd love to be that person now. Obviously, they don't want old men anymore because they're far too opinionated. But, when I was in, I was, I just seemed like, I do blame this on the trauma that I went in with, that I didn't feel satisfied with anything. Like I got, wherever I got, it didn't complete the perception. The perception and reality was so far apart. Like getting to the Royal Marines for me was like such a disappointment. I don't know if it's because I'd, so creative in my head. I'm like, from the age of 14, just thinking about how it would be. And then actually joining for real, and you're like, this is not at all like I thought it would be. And that's the one thing that really, I was like, I'm going to leave, always going to leave. And then it was at some point, one of my officers got hold of me. He said, look, I can't believe that you're not going for the Special Forces. I know you wanted to do that. And I was like, I was shocked because I'd lost my desire to be a soldier. So for me, I was like, I was a crap soldier. Do you know what I mean? But he saw something in me, and that was the one thing that then made me think, I need to do this. Because he said to me, if you don't do it, you'll regret this for the rest of your life. And those words for me like hit home so hard. And not only that, the fact that someone I respected that I'd been to war with had confidence in me. And I want to say this because this is so important, because we're always led to believe. You watch Instagram posts and everything else, and people are saying, all you need is belief, all you need is this, it's like all the, the Olympians, with belief you can do anything. And I think that isn't the best message, because I don't think you need belief. It's not belief you need, it's a desire. It's a desire to really achieve something. Like, if you're waiting for belief, it's enough to not make you ever take that first step.
Yeah, the difference.
Because you're waiting for you to be ready. And if you're waiting to be ready,
I can and I want to.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, it was like I didn't have the confidence or belief, but I borrowed some off my commanding officer. You know what I mean? I did it as a duty to him. He believed in me, and I was prepared to actually just put my toe in the arena, the Special Forces, to go and do that. I'd actually gone down to a different place, down to Poole, actually, where the SBS were. I was doing some crappy guard job down there for a while. I was going to leave. I thought, nah. I got down there and I was like, nah. And it was actually then I bumped into the officer. He was at my brother's pass-out parade because his girlfriend was in the same batch as my brother's pilot. And it was down there at the, we were both drunk, and he's like, you need to go for Special Forces. And I went straight back to Poole where I was and went, I want to take my notice out to leave. And he went, why? And I didn't get on with the guy, the sergeant there. I says, I want to go on Special Forces selection in the next one that's coming on. He laughed at me. He laughed straight in my face, and he said, you know what? I'm going to let you do this because you're going to fail.
Really?
And I can't wait to see that. I was like, right, okay. Next time I saw him was when I had an SBS blue tracksuit on.
Nice.
You know what I mean? I was like, how you doing? Didn't even call him sergeant or anything like that. And he was like, you know what I mean? That to me was like, yes. And I think that that can be a double-edged sword, right? Because the struggles and the battles I went against, knowing what I know now, looking at it now, it's almost like so many things were saying, don't do it, this is not for you, don't do it. It's like so many things thrown in my way. But it was my ego. I was going to prove to everyone that I could do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that, I wouldn't say the ego's a good thing, but again, if you allow it, it's like a wild horse without a saddle. If you can't put the saddle on and control it, it controls you. So really, you can end up doing a load of stuff that really isn't suited to who you are, but you're doing it to prove something to the audience.
Yeah. I was just thinking then when you're talking that, because I've recognised that myself in a lot of the things I do, and when I can feel my ego's taken over, but the concept I've just thought in my head that is, as long as throughout that process of whatever you're doing, being driven by your ego, as long as you finish the process with love, and that's the bit that matters, because that's how you leave that process feeling happy in yourself,
and it's for you,
and it's for you because you
no
finished it with love.
Yeah,
you finished it from a good place with the right intentions.
Yeah,
it just so happens that along the way, parts of that journey have been done from another place.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, when I look, it was like this. I know you can put it down to so many things, but it's almost this insecurity in myself, that pushed me through, to actually do something when everything was against me. It's like some crazy stuff happened. I nearly broke my ankle. That went over. It was like they tried to take me off Special Forces selection, saying you can come back on the next one. But it was my second time round already, and they said if you fail due to medical, you can't come back. And they were like, just come off this one. You can come back in another 6 months. And I went, nah. I said, it's now or never. I knew I was never going to come back. I wasn't there mentally, I was like, it's either now or never. And I pushed through. It's like, and they were like shaking their head. They were getting angry with me because they knew in their heads, they knew I was going to fail. And that next day, the next few days, when my ankle was it was massive, mate. And I'd strapped it up myself. I've absolutely took so much bruising. I was just floating. I was in tears doing Special Forces selection. I just managed to get the times every day, and it slowly started coming better. And they were like, "Oh my God!" It was like, and I was seeing the lads going home with a bit of a knee twist or this. I was like, fuck, you know what I mean? It was like people are always looking for that physical excuse to say it wasn't them mentally. And I pushed through and I got through to the end of that, and then finally managed to join my Special Forces team. And then again, I was like, I was just disappointed. So this thing I was always chasing was never good enough. It was never there. And I know now, looking back, those that don't know the story, at 10 years old, my first experience of life on this planet was when I was mauled by a chimp at a circus. It nearly killed me. I saw death. I was looking at death, and in that moment, I heard a message in my head saying, "You don't die today," and it caused me to retaliate. And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here today. And, that taught me a few things in that moment. First of all, like I said before, that it doesn't matter what situation you're in, you always have options. You always have a choice. Yeah. Secondly, this was my first break point, which is the name of my business I'm so passionate about. And that is when you step into short-term discomfort for long-term gain. There is no other way for growth or anything you want to achieve in life. There is a period of pain, and you putting up with that. But that becomes temporary. As long as you keep on pushing through, you lean into it. And then the third thing, which was monumental, was the fact that I understood that we always have more to give. We're almost led more than we're ever led to believe. Whatever percentage is, some people say it's 40%. David Goggins talk about 40, whatever percent. I don't know what the percentage is, but the fact of the matter is, your mind is always looking to protect you, and it's keeping you within a limitation. And in that moment, when I was fighting that chimp, I just wanted to curl up and just accept it, and that I wouldn't be here if I allowed that to happen. And I just realised in that moment, that I had so much more to give, and I did, and it got me out of that situation. And that would help me get through Special Forces selection twice, and on the brink of thinking I no longer should be here.
Was it the same emotion you felt in those moments where you're at your next break point? It instantly takes you back to the 10-year-old.
It did in some respects, but a lot of it I'd so blanked out because of the emotional. I feel we have this innate ability, through those very traumatic moments where, it's brutal. I think we have this innate ability to be able to switch off that intimate trauma and lock it away and push it away, which is great. It's a great system, amazing system we've got, and that helps us get through the harshness of that moment.
Yeah.
That time in our life. But the problem is we tend to not go back to the box that we've slid away with our emotions in it. So for me, a lot of that attack when I was a kid, I blanked out. There was no emotion. When I recited it in my head, it was a joke, it was a laugh. And, you know, for me, I didn't really hold on to any of the emotion in that event. You know, it did have extreme psychological damage. You know, saying that, it had two things, right? For the good qualities, which I always shine a light on, but, you know, it did also make me push the envelope. You know, it's why I got in trouble with the police, why I'd always, you know, I was extreme. And if it wasn't for my mum that was actually channeled that energy into me doing athletics and everything else, and then, you know, and then that took me to that time where I went on join the military, which she then further encouraged, you know, I would have been in a very different place.
Happens for a reason.
It does happen for a reason.
Did you go back to the circus?
No, I've been back there. I've been back to Burton-on-Trent to where the incident took place. But yeah, it's interesting, you know. And I now look back on that situation, and I'm piecing it all together. I pieced it all together. You know, I've been to the jungles in Costa Rica, I've gone through ayahuasca, gone back to the chimp, unravelled that whole emotional attack, which was harsh, it was horrible, but it was something I needed to do, and that helped me unravel so much, because it took me, you know, whether I was directly thinking it, subconsciously, I was the victim of that situation. When I did ayahuasca, it took me away from being the victim and made me a bigger part of it, made me understand that I went into the chimp's enclosure. It didn't come looking for me, and it was doing what any mum would do. It was protecting its young. So it then taught me compassion for the chimp that attacked me, and then, you know, a load of other things, like you know, another thing that through ayahuasca, you know, through that whole incident, was I came up with this other thing. It's like pain screams the loudest when it's dying. And this is what we tend to do when we go through something in our life that's really harsh. You know, sometimes it seems makes so much more sense if we just turn back into the pain and just embrace it. You know, just keep it enough to quiet it down a bit, whether that's a relationship or something or whatever. You know, it's the fact that that's the point where you really need to lean in and push through, because it's the birth of something new.
And it's if you're stuck in a room and there's a door, and the door represents the pain at its strongest, and you can spend, I can go and hide in the corner over there and do something, keep myself busy.
Exactly.
This is comfortable, but now I get a bit closer to the door again. Oh, it's hurting again now, and I'm going to go backwards. Because actually the only way out of the pain is through it, through that door. And then the moment you step into the next part of your journey, and overcome whatever it was you were delaying, you think, why didn't I just do that at the earliest opportunity?
Exactly. But this is where so many people turn back, and this then relates to so many things in life, opportunities, everything. You know, at the point of absolute mayhem, chaos, and everything else is like I've said earlier, is the gateway to your higher self. You know, opportunities in life, and when it gets really, you know, there's been so many points in my business life with my wife, you know, where we've got to our lowest, you know, just so frustrated with everything. So many times we could have easily just thrown in the towel, but we just know, just by pushing through in those moments, it's not only helping you to grow, you're becoming stronger, you're evolving as a person, but you're getting towards your greatest breakthroughs.
Unlocking the next chapter.
Definitely.
And I can really relate to that, especially with this podcast, for example, because there's something that keeps me going with it, even though there's no financial reward whatsoever from it. I know that it will all come good in the end. I know that if you do things from the right place, and that you're putting a message out there which is consistent and in line with your values and what you believe, then good stuff happens eventually.
100%. I mean, and this is the misconception of what success means. You know, if you ask anyone on the street, you go up and say, what does success, it might be a good exercise, Ollie. What does success mean to you? Everyone will say bank balance, cars, Louis Vuitton, whatever they want to believe. You know, it's like that is the medium of success. And I tell you now, it's like I've only got one son, but in some cultures I'd be considered a failure, because success to them is growing a family. You know, bringing humans into this world, or to other you know, people that their focus is solely on a charity which might be helping humanity. And that's why true success to me is your ability to be of service to others. And when you can define that, I mean, the remuneration is a byproduct. You know, once you've got that relationship right with money, of course I want remuneration. That's an energy exchange, and I call money now energy credits. It's energy credits, isn't it? I mean, it's fun credits. But you know, if like anyone that is, and I was so focused on money, I was never happy. You know, even when I left the military, went across to Iraq as a mercenary contractor, I was earning so much money. I wasn't rich. I was never rich. I was still poor. Regardless of that, because I was from a mindset of lack. First of all, I was so scared of losing everything that it's almost like the universe allowed me just to get rid of it all. Yeah. And really, for me, the whole thing changed when I went across. I got involved in an operation to rescue kids in Southeast Asia. This was a turning point for me, because the first time in my life something more powerful than money sat in the front seat, and that was helping others. And that was such a turning point. The money, I actually wasn't even being paid for the first time, but it was the best return on investment ever.
Yeah.
Being at the coalface of seeing those kids walking down the street with a school uniform on, knowing that the other way that they were going to go is into a brothel. I mean, that was incredible. And then, so that was the first marker. The second marker, when I was thinking of ending it all, which was shortly after, because all that came crashing down, had to escape out of Thailand, and my whole world came crashing down. I was like, no, I'm going to end it all. And then I heard this voice that I'd heard before just saying, and I honestly heard these words, it doesn't end like this, there's more to your story. There's more to your story than this. And those words were enough for me to go, right, I'm changing stuff. And then managing over a short period of time to go, right, so what do I need to change? Because my current mindset is not positively affecting who I want to be. So what am I doing in this moment right now then? I'm hating everything. I'm hating my world, I'm hating my environment, hating my history, hating this. Worst of all, I'm hating myself. And isn't it funny, we think that the more we hate, if we hate something, surely it's got to disappear. Oh, I hate that, I hate that, I hate that.
It's when the ego's that is most dangerous.
Exactly. And the more you hate something, all the universe will hear is that word hate. So all it will do is bring you more of it. So I was thinking, right, okay, so what's the opposite of what I'm doing right now? Because this ain't working. The opposite of what I was doing was starting to create a vision for someone I wanted to be. What does that person look like? What does that person represent? And then the cherry on top of that was, what does it feel like to be Ollie in 6 months? And the cherry on top of that was, what does it feel like to be Ollie in 6 months? And I created this vision of me thinking, what does that version of me up there who represents this business, helping other people and everything else, what does that represent? What does it feel like being that person? What do the qualities of that person, what am I doing today right now that doesn't relate to the qualities of that person in 6 months? The drinking, the drugs, the this, that and the other, all those things had to go. And that really, for me, and then going on that path of that desire to who I wanted to be, making sure that was the dominant thought in my head when all that negativity came in. And it was a battle, I agree with that, but that was like a game changer.
Yeah.
A game changer. And then, so the two situations, the helping the kids, understanding that we can change ourselves, that was the DNA for Breakpoint. Breakpoint is the globally identified brand recognised for the positive growth and development of others.
Yeah.
There's nothing more powerful than that.
I agree, and I've felt that energy twice now at your event at the Fairs, when you invited the room to visualise who you want to be, what behaviours you do that aren't in line with the person you know you want to become and that you're capable of becoming. A month later, I give up alcohol completely.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked back.
Yeah.
And then
amazing,
today, I've been in the same meditation, different environment.
Yeah.
Much more serene in the woodland, in nature, really connecting barefoot on the earth. Surrounded by like-minded people, again, lied there, and your meditation again invited me, because I'm now a different version to the person I was only a short time ago. And again, I'm looking inwards, and I'm realising things that I need to cut out. I definitely need to reduce the amount of time I'm on my phone, because it goes hand in hand with the growth of the podcast. So it's very tempting to be on it more. But the holiday I've just had with my family meant that I was locking my phone away for long periods. So then when I came back to check it, it meant it was more productive, because there might have been 4 or 5 messages there that I could have been checking all day for, but it's the same amount of messages that now I'm responding to in a wanna, and then it goes away again, and then I go away and enjoy my time away from the phone, being present with my family in a beautiful country.
The thing is, you come back and check 4 to 5 messages. If you'd have had your phone with you, you'd check 12 times for the 5 messages.
At least.
And I've learned the same thing, you know. Just recently I was I was taking an expedition of guys, an amazing event up at Mount Rinjani in Indonesia, and you know, after we came back, we then went on to Gili Island for a bit of decompression and relaxation and everything else, and I'm sat there at a cafe, And like this island is incredible. It's like they've got no vehicles on there whatsoever. It's just bikes and everything. Turquoise waters all around the edge.
Nice.
And mate, I'm there with my phone, and I look up, and all the lads are all on their phones.
Yeah.
And I just watched something that consumed about 2 minutes in my time, which was absolutely shit. And I just got my phone, slammed it down, and I went, no more of this. Fortunately, I've got like 2 phones. So what I ended up doing was delete all the social media off that one phone.
Nice.
And then I left the social media on the other phone. The other phone I then left in the hotel every day, and the freedom it gave me. And also email as well. You know, when my email was, I'd done the email one a bit before that, but the amount of time I was like, check email. I must have checked 20 times, you know, in the space of a couple of hours, few hours. Like, I leave the office upstairs, right, I need a break, and then go downstairs in the kitchen or wherever, and then you check your phone.
It's so hard, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm like, no message is that important that I need to keep on checking.
No.
You know what I mean? So, but to do these little measures, you know, because the phones are the biggest distraction ever, and it takes you away from self. And it's like one thing I make sure I do every single day, and we should all do, is silence. And what does that? I'm looking at the word down in its shapes of resilience. Take the re off. What does that near enough say?
Silence.
Silence. You know, resilience. Silence is something that we need to embrace. You know, so many people, we wake up in the morning, that is the first thing. The last thing we see at night is the phone. You know, the phone, bang, 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 off next to your bed, sleep. First thing in the morning, wake up with that. You are never allowing the freedom of silence, and there's so much information and downloads in those moments. And so people, you know, I live in Dubai now, and you know, it frustrates me. You know, I'm out training early in the morning. That for me is like my time. I'm away from family. It's my time. It's me. I can really internalise, and I've got no distractions. And I'm seeing people walking down the street. They've got a pushchair in one arm and a phone in the other. Even going out running, how can you? I don't know how you can run with a big phone in you. I've got to run with a phone. I'm like, just why are you doing that? Just give yourself the beauty of silence every now and then. I think we should do that every single day. You need to have that silence.
Silence and stillness.
Yeah, silence and stillness and the presence in that moment, because you are never understanding who you truly are if you don't give yourself the beauty of silence.
No, I can recall so many years where it's just push, and literally no silence in the day, because I haven't even got time to sleep properly.
Yeah.
Because I'm working so many hours, because it's exciting and we're travelling and we're doing all this cool stuff, and I'm with a good group of lads, and you get that fear of missing out if you're not involved in the operations and the call-ins, and I've got to go, and it's exciting. So, but all I remember from those periods is a lack of sleep and zero silence. And then when you do finally slow down, and you might have a bit of time off, and you're so tired, the first thing that happens is you just sleep.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that happens is generally you catch a cold, because your body's been running on empty for so long.
You're depleted.
It's depleted. And and also, I wasn't who I am now back then. It's also hard to be silent if you don't like the thoughts that are in your head when you try and be silent.
Exactly.
It's very difficult.
Yeah. I think, you know, what we should do is part 1 and 2, because man, we've got so much more to cover.
One thing actually that I wanted to share, because it was something I was saving for our podcast, and it was the story I shared with you around the universe and the incident that happened over there. That I hadn't shared that because I thought, because you said remember that story.
Yeah, remember that story, because then we wanted to get that.
Because I chose not to drink any alcohol when I went to Benidorm on a stag do with 18 lads, and
which when you told me you were doing that, I was like,
it was different. It was different. I had a lot of preconceived anticipations around how it was going to go down, but the lads I was with were spot on around it, and it wasn't an issue, and I was very grateful to them for that. But what happened when we got there was we went into the town and we were grabbing something to eat, and I sat with a view to the window, and I'm eating my food, looking out the window, and then this male's come into my view, and he's passed out, fallen, heavy impact on the floor. And I could see that his head had like almost wobbled and just completely obliterated on the floor. So I've run out and administered first aid and just sprung into action. And it was like a out-of-body experience, and just went into this flow state and did everything we needed to do. The guy was unconscious, ripped his shirt off and turned him into the recovery position. And then we managed to get his bleeding under control, got him back breathing again. And just, it was like one of those things where as we walked off, it was like that was the universe putting me there to save the guy's life. And it was such a special moment.
You'd have been there, right? The alternative would, you'd have been there and probably not even seen it. If you were drinking, you'd have been
My
there.
eyes just literally just honed in on the guy's body language.
Yeah.
And when he fell, you could have quite easily think the bloke's just asleep because he's drinking. But what I saw was there was blood coming out the back of his head, and it was a heavy wound. His head had opened up.
Wow.
So if I hadn't got that under control, he would have swallowed his tongue. There's all these things like
I remember he told me, and I was like, I was laughing, not because I was laughing at the situation. I was laughing because I was like, this has been sent to test, or sent to prove, because definitely, mate. If you imagine if you'd have been consumed like absolutely shit faced, this, that, you wouldn't have even noticed it. You might have been in a whole different situation somewhere else, and that, what you did there is you saved his life.
Yeah. I just want to share that because it just shows that you don't realise sometimes how important it is to follow your heart, make the right decisions for the greater good, and then in return, the universe does some mad stuff where you're in a situation that is one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. Yeah.
Nice work, brother.
So, final question on Project U.
Yeah.
So, if you visualise who you're going to become in 6 months, what habits does that involve you removing to become the person that you visualise in 6 months?
Yeah, for me, it's, when I first got onto this, it was quite obvious. There was like elephants in the room. Like I knew the first thing for me is like taking the alcohol out of the equation was gonna. And I don't care how much you drink, even if it's a small amount to a large amount. Removing it from your life is going to change your life dramatically. Like if you're a lawyer and you drink, every couple of nights or just at weekends, if you remove that from your life, you will be a better lawyer. And a better person and a happier person. So it doesn't matter what amount, for me it's like, the biggest, I could never, initially thinking, I can never have it out of my life, so I'm just going to try and manage it. It was the worst battle than actually drinking. But for me, those things, I knew if I started to remove these toxic, what in your life is toxic? So back then it was like, that's definitely toxic, that has to go. I mean, there were big red markers. Now it's a little bit different. It's almost like, it's fine tuning, but it's almost like it's a more disciplined focus on the things I'm doing anyway. So, I know sometimes that, I do have a tendency to fall off the wagon when it comes to my nutrition. You know what I mean? I can easily...
Especially when you're travelling a lot.
Travelling a lot. Like, when I was in Dubai, I was very strict doing OMAD, so 1 meal a day. I'd have 2 hours, so fasting 22 hours a day, which works brilliant for me. But as soon as I got to the UK, going down to my family's home, everyone's, and it's like... And I've just started eating like I used to eat again, like sweets, and I'm sugar. Once I get on the old sugar thing, I'm... You know what I mean? So, but the thing is, that's okay. It's okay because I know as soon as I get back to Dubai, I can switch it straight on again. So that for me, that needs to change. My whole visualization at the moment is always my next move. Like I want to go from Dubai. My dream for a few years now is like I want to live on a boat. So that is my dream. That's my goal. That's a version of me moving forward. And I can really start to see that now because, I've moved a lot of my stuff online and I can start to see how my business then fits into that lifestyle, being able to record stuff on a boat, being able to connect with the world from the boat, which is all good.
And you thought about doing this for yourself?
I have thought about it, yeah. But I do, I'm really conscious of my time, and I do think, I've tried bits before where it's like, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then you end up...
go all in.
Yeah, you've got to go all, and when I had about 6 businesses, and it was like, not one of them was, all of them were doing okay, but not one of them was doing great. And initially I'm like, right, I want to find my niche, focus on that, and not get distracted by other stuff now.
Makes sense.
And this is the thing, I'm a creative person, right? We all are, but, my creativity hates admin. I hate spreadsheets, I hate all that shit, all the boring stuff. And what I tend to do, I get to a certain point, and I'm like, I love all the creativity of building something new, but then when it gets to the boring stuff, I just go, let's create something new. So for me, it's like now, it's like I've done like a full circle and I'm back to breakpoint. How can I get to as many people as possible? And that is through the online versions.
Stuff.
Yeah.
That's growing.
That's growing. It's growing.
And how rewarding is that, seeing other people now like really starting to benefit from the stuff that you're putting out there and you created.
There's no better payback than that. There's no better paycheck than someone writing to you, and you get different, levels of, it doesn't matter where you're at. I just believe people should never sit there and go, well, I don't need any self-growth, my life's great. It's like we should all be learning and growing every single day. And but to get a message from someone like, I was about to take my own life, and I've read you, and like that, to me, I mean, Laura's in tears constantly reading emails out. Yeah,
with the messages I get.
Yeah,
and it's
how
life-changing.
rewarding is that?
It's life-changing, but it knocks you for six, and you think you're very grateful for it.
Yeah, I
doing
say
it.
to people when they say that to me, you won't believe how much you've people say, oh, you've really inspired me, and I'm like, you won't believe you telling me that has inspired me, because it keeps wanting you to do what you're doing.
Yeah,
it validates you, putting in the time, putting in the effort. I mean, you're doing this for no money at the moment. What's the value? The value is you're helping other people. And at some point there will be a time where it gets popular enough and you're getting some remuneration from it, and you need to just appreciate that. I feel that, I said this to you earlier, when people pay, they pay attention.
Yeah.
That it's an exchange. It's an exchange. And, you are someone, Ollie, that again, you are a product of the product. And I think there's not enough authenticity in this world. And people, especially with the likes of AI and all this other mediums coming in, people can be and say and do and create the person there's no authenticity behind it, and people are starting to see through that. They want the authentic message from the people that have been there and actually gone through the stuff they've gone through. And I was like thinking before, I mean, who would you actually want as a mentor? Someone that's just done pretty nothing but knows has got a college degree in psychology or whatever, or someone that's actually been through the mold and learned a load of stuff and then change their life dramatically.
It's showing up as well as every part of yourself, not just the good bits, not just the bits that know the topic or the solution, and that's why I haven't stepped fully into that coaching role, because I've got the qualifications and I've got the experience, but there's part of me that doesn't feel like I want to come across like I've got the answers, because I feel like me being the student, I feel like I absorb more, and I just prefer that version of me. Always want to be learning. And so it's a fine balance, but I feel like the universe rewards us at the point where we're ready to receive what we're hoping for. And the moment I get desperate and create this energy we were talking about earlier that is too desperate, the frequency isn't right and nothing good happens. When I step back and accept where I am, grateful for the progress I made, and then all of a sudden new opportunities come. For example, 2 years ago, I remember whenever I sent that first message to you and we connected, I walked down to the breakwater and I visualised at some point I'm going to be friends with that bloke, because I just feel like being friends and building a connection based on friendship, there's nothing that could be more valuable than that, because if I just wanted something from you, or just get the podcast episode and then right, I'm off now. Like, it's a hit and run.
Yes.
And it's not for me. It's just not what I'm after. So I'm grateful for that, and I really appreciate everything that you've done for me so far. And I've got no doubt that it's just another stepping stone in our connection. That's going to lead to more growth.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
Mate, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Let's get stuck back into
we are going to do
the wellness festival.
Yeah, we are, and we are going to do a part 2, because there's a lot more stuff to cover.
Thanks
it's been great. Thank you. We'll do a part 2.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, nice work. Awesome, bro.